Juventini. Welcome to the All Juvecast, and we're at episode 116, and this one is going to be interesting. We got a draw against Hellas Verona, and definitely no shortage of topics to discuss. A very, very frustrating outing for Juventini to watch this one, especially with Barca right around the corner. To cover this one, I've got joining me for the first time, my man, Chris. Chris, how are you doing?
Doing well, Alberto. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, my man, doing great. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for reaching out and wanting to
Pleasure to be
take
here.
part. And we got a little bit of tradition before we get into this Hellas Verona match that I always love the first-timers sharing their story on how they became Juventini. So if you don't mind, I will leave it to you, and let's hear how you became a Juventino.
Yeah, no problem. My first exposure to Juventus was 1994 World Cup. I'm in America, so Calcio exposure in the 90s to America, it was very limited unless you had Rye, which I didn't at home. So obviously during the World Cup, I saw clips of Baggio at Juve and took a liking to that and started getting interested, but really became a big fan in 1999. I met a longtime friend now and a lifetime Juventini who had Rye, so we'd watch the games all weekend. And at the time, that was the only way you could get the games in America. So and sometimes, most of the time, they would play Juve, but I'd always love because the way that they did the announcing of the goals and the run-ins, like they do the red zone now, they got the idea from there. So that was really cool and got me exposure to it, and really just started 1999 from there, becoming a huge fan, following them all the way through, even the dark days of Serie B, and then all the way through to him promising me to take me to Turin. We actually went last year to Juve Milan and had tickets to the Derby d'Italia last season, unfortunately, which was canceled. Well, played behind closed doors because of Corona, but. So for me, it's been an over 20-year odyssey of love of the squad and to be able to see the trials, tribulations, and obviously triumphs over the last 9 years, and hopefully a 10th, and looking at the Champions League as the biggest goal.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That is awesome. It's great that you got to get there because it's a long trip for us.
Anyone who's from America, Canada, like if you're able to get there, it's unreal to be able to see a match live. It's hard to get tickets. You can do it, StubHub and other opportunities like that, or you can try to become a member of a club to be able to get on the approved ticket list. But it's phenomenal. Can't say how awesome it was.
Absolutely. And I noticed you got a kit on. I like that kit. I really do. Do you have a player on the back of it?
No, this is just a plain one. I forget even what year this is from.
Do you collect kits? Do you have quite a few?
I have a couple from early 90s. I have the Tele Plus one. I have a Del Piero one, that New Holland, that doesn't fit anymore, unfortunately.
I mean, there's a topic in its own right there. These pink Pharrell Williams bad boys that come out that the guys were wearing today, and I'm a collector. There's no question. But I cannot wrap my head around this one. The emblems just being blurred out and literally just looks like a kid took a felt and just drew this thing together. But what do you think of those kits?
Yeah, I love the pink kit. The 2015 pink kit was, and I really think that should be their away kit every year with like a blue to be the third, not this crazy orange Halloween color, but I like pink, but I have an 8-year-old son. It looks like he drew the entire crest, but I was wondering why the crest is the older crest. Why not the J?
I can't wrap my head around this thing at all, to be honest, because even the crest itself, you can't even make out.
You don't even know who it is. It looks like something fell off.
It just looks like a smudge, and it's really too bad because the back of the kit, once the
it's nice,
were put on, looks really sharp.
Yeah, it's
with the white and watercolor like that effect, like it
in the two-tone
looks really nice.
He did Bayern Munich's kit too, which is there's 2 stripes here. It's not as bad because you can actually make out that it's Bayern Munich, but I don't know why the crest would look like it was.
Yeah, so terrible. they did the big Adidas club. So it's like you've got Real Madrid's in there, which is just a standard black one, but it's not bad. The Bayern one's okay. I think Arsenal's in there too. It's not very good at all. Man U's is okay, but I don't know. It's like ours had wicked potential, but just those emblems being blurred out like that, I couldn't get behind it. But
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I hope they go back to pink next year, but
yeah,
it's a money grab. But
yeah. So yeah, the thing with those jerseys, it was all over the place and still selling out, of course.
yeah,
So
yep.
yeah,
Yeah, they
but
need to make revenue.
yeah, let's get to this match. So I want to get your thoughts leading up to this with how we were playing so far, kind of what your expectations were, what your prediction was. And we knew the starting lineup when it got put out was Wojciech Szczesny in goal, Danilo, Bonucci, Demiral, which was no surprise as Chiellini's injured. We're still waiting for De Ligt, who is training, just waiting for the okay from the doctors. We had Bernardeschi playing at left wing back, Cuadrado over on the right, Rabiot and Arthur as the pivots, Ramsey in the hole behind Dybala and Morata. I liked the lineup. My only thing was I really wanted to see Kulusevski in the hole behind the forwards because I think that kid needs space ahead of him. Every time I see him play, when he gets into those advanced positions, or even in our own end for that matter, he struggles with a defender on his back. He struggles quite a bit with that. And I think having him not right up against the line or even on the wing would do him a lot better. If he could just get a little bit more space and be able to run at defenders a little more. So I wanted to see him there. And also just because of the fact I'm always nervous about Ramsey and his injury history and whatnot. And with Barca coming around the corner, I just didn't want to risk him, especially against Hellas Verona. Well, what a fool I am after how the game ended up going. And we needed Ramsey in there and he was solid. But what were your thoughts on it? What were your expectations? What were you predicting?
I think most of the people thought it was going to be 2-0 Juve. I mean, I think you had that. I think others had looked at that as kind of coming off the Champions League game, something like that, to keep a clean sheet. I mean, the lineup was expected except for Bernardeschi. I am really done with him. The ability to see him just not be able to make a pass. The ball he gave away for the goal was hospital ball. I mean, he's really... unfortunately, a Sunday pool league player. He should join the Sami Khedira club and just sit and watch the games from now on. You better off starting for Brota and bringing in. I mean, I understand Kulusevski. I mean, I think he should have played from the start. You want to bring him in against tired legs. You see the difference. The last 25 minutes of the match were really good. I mean, they moved the ball well. They created tons of chances. They just couldn't finish. It was a lot of unluckiness. I think what you saw, I think Arthur is starting to get into what Pirlo wants. He holds the ball a little bit more than I think they want to, but I think he's really strong. He doesn't give, I mean, I don't think he gave away a bad ball. And him and Rabiot, I know you want to talk about it too, but him and Rabiot, I think, are good complements to each other in those pivots. I just think Bernardeschi just didn't offer you anything. He just didn't really offer. He had that breakaway, but that was it. He didn't, it was pretty much a waste of a player. I mean, I was expecting them to kind of, I haven't watched Verona yet. I mean, I was impressed tactically with what they did and how they played. They didn't really, there's no thrills, but they tactically outworked and they played well. They pressed. I mean, they did what they needed to do to get a point.
Yeah, I mean, Bernardeschi, I was fine with the attempt at left wing back. If you're going to do it, this is the game to do it.
Yeah.
Against Hellas Verona, you're at home, no crowd, regardless. It shouldn't matter. I mean, this is the same story as Crotone. If we're talking about needing our best 11 against these clubs, like no disrespect, then we have bigger issues. So to attempt Bernardeschi at left wing back to see, sure, because it also, you've got Chiesa serving his. Frabotta, I have no problems playing him, but again, that doesn't give you the answer now that Bernardeschi's in the fold of where he could be utilized. Frabotta, I have no issues with. Sandro's still struggling for health. Apparently, it's going to be about another month. And then you have, Kulusevski that still hasn't really found his spot until potentially this match, but we'll get into it all now. So yeah, you kind of figured the same, probably like a 2-0 scenario. We were figuring they should pull this one through. It should have been 3 points.
So this is where, though, I struggle why they didn't look to either get Alfonso or Emerson on the left, Palmieri, additional left support for like even like this to be able to, because he can't play. I mean, I get these are games you got to take chances on some of this stuff, and you've lost 4 points against Crotone and Hellas Verona, but like this is where, especially if Sandro's, unless they didn't know he was going to be out an extra month.
We even go to the point of saying, why get rid of Luca Pellegrini, Chris?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
ultimately, like it even goes that far. It's just like, well, it was a free loan, for Christ's sake. It's just why. But yeah, we'll get into it. So let's get into some of the key points through the first and second half. So it actually kicked off with a bit of a bang for you because 44 seconds in, we had a great turn of play. Rabiot just has to get this ball over on this fast break, and it was just not enough. Just these guys throwing muffins in the final third, not getting it to our guys crisply. But again, it was right out of the gate, so I was like, it is what it is. 12th minute, Cuadrado. He beats a guy, and then nothing. Like he does so well to get into these areas, but then it's just nothing. He waits till it's just dead. Anything at that point after you beat your first guy, cross it in, do something. He eventually holds it so long, tries to beat a guy, and the guy just takes it. And Verona comes back at us because we've got all our guys in the mixer, and Cuadrado just does not put it in there. It's so frustrating because while a lot of Juventini want to just pick apart this team on how easily we're getting countered and Pirlo and whatnot, decisions like that kill us. They friggin' kill us. Move the ball quickly, be direct, just make a decision and just do it with conviction. It's all this. We have these guys, you talk about Bernardeschi. Cuadrado is one of them for me where it's just like, for Christ's sake, man, do something with like a direct approach and just the right attitude. He slows everything down and kills our tempo. It's so frustrating to watch, but this was 12 minutes in too, and I'm just thinking, man, you literally caused a mess of a counterattack that wasn't necessary. You've got Morata in there. He's a good target. You've got 3 other players in there. And he beats his first guy, and he waits and waits and waits, and he tries to beat him again. And Aaron Ramsey threw his hands up, and he had every right to throw his hands up because it's just like, you don't need to be a pro footballer to know the progression and what needs to happen in what circumstances and what scenarios. It's just that kind of shit drives me crazy.
He's one of the best players on the team 1v1 taking on his player because he has those quick step overs, and he's got that cuff pop-up move that he did against Dynamo Kiev where he can beat people, especially if you don't used to it. But he always beats 2 people and then the ball's diagonal back because he's got nowhere to go. So you're right. Like he drives and like you said, look at the difference of the ball that he played in Europe over the week. First time in, boom, done, header, goal. There's frustration. I think Cuadrado overall had a really good half, though. Obviously the hit, I think he caused a lot of problems on the right, outstanding that 12th minute that you talked about, but he still was at least bringing on players and at least not negative, like you had on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got too many. I don't know. I saw him throw useless passes around, even in the first, but not just him. The team in general the passing was so lazy, especially in the final third. It was shocking to see, man. 3 minutes later, 15th minute, just some of the laziest defending I've ever seen. This ball getting headed, it seemed like 3-4 different times, and all of a sudden we completely lose our guys. And this guy back post cuts it in, and they score. Luckily, the player was offside.
It was offsides, yeah.
So we get a little bit of a break there, but honestly, like, just shocking from Juve, like shocking defending on that sequence. Luckily, he was ruled offside, and he was offside. 20th minute, we get a great ball in from Rabiot on to Berna, who makes a great run. And For the life of me, it looks like he's doing everything he can just to run with the ball in open space. Like it looked like a struggle. I'm like, dude, like you're alone. Look, I know some people are gonna say it's just your bias against Bernardeschi and all this, because I have seen some people defending him and saying it's just a bias. We'll get to another play. Everybody knows the play later on in this match. And we even know about the play in a match we're drawing with Crotone, and he turns back and goes all the way to the bloody defense. He could play off Morata. He could have had the first ball in. I went over all the possible scenarios. Bernardeschi stops, goes back. This play, sent in beautifully by Rabiot. It literally looks like it's taken every ounce of him not to trip himself up, just running with the ball in space. The defender catches up to him. He gets a shot off. It wasn't very difficult to handle for the keeper, but he makes great runs. And I said this at one point in this game. I said it at halftime, actually. I put a tweet on. I said, it was in my video, my halftime review. And I said, Bernardeschi, running, the work rate, attacking space is all great, but it's everything else in between that just falls short. And ultimately,
it just looks like he's lost confidence.
He is just not a top 5 league player, man. No. He just isn't. He's like any club that wants to take themselves serious in the top 5 leagues. I'm sorry, this guy he's done. He's broken. He is a broken player.
The only hope is Inter Miami wants to take him, and Beckham can have him.
Yeah, like it's shocking, man. But yeah, anyways, great ball from Rabiot. Beautiful through ball, beautiful run. It just nothing worked out on the ensuing corner. Dybala gets it, falls at him. Volley gets it wrong, skies it. But the degree of difficulty on this, a lot of people are even ragging on Dybala. That's a tough, that's a tough ask to just, he gets that thing on target. I'm pumped, to be honest. Hell of a degree of difficulty there. 22nd minute. We give up another close call, and this was, again, lazy passing. This time it was Morata, literally playing the – how many times in this match did we see them play the ball to nobody? There's no Juve player in the area. We were just – it looked like throwing it blindly. We had a couple players trying these flick-on passes, and it's just like there's nobody there. Protect the ball. And again, we get into the coaching side of things. Pirlo's got to pick up on this stuff, and, I don't see – when the cameras do go to him, enough shouting.
He's not vocal at all.
Yeah,
he's not vocal. He wasn't a vocal player. I think he's.
And it's one of the criticisms, even a criticism, is one of my concerns I had with him even taking the position. I'm just I don't know if he's going to be able to voice right there on the time. He's going to be banking on what he says at the start, what he says at halftime. And then all the training leading up to it, because I'm just not seeing anything from him there on the sidelines, right? But yeah, the lazy passing. That was 22nd minute. Luckily, again, we go unscathed. 32nd minute. Dybala gets in there, rips one, but he was at a bad angle. It got blocked. If that pass had just hit him in stride, it could have been a different story. He took a lot of heat. I agree. Dybala he had a terrible half by his standards. It was probably one of the worst I've seen Dybala play, but he was working, and he's been back, just early. We're going to get into Dybala, but I didn't think it was as bad as everybody was making it. It was pretty bad, but he was still at least working and getting in good spots. It just wasn't happening for him. And usually when a guy comes back after a while off like that, it kind of looks like that. So it wasn't anything I don't know. It's tough. I think there's a lot of stories circulating around him that are starting to sway people's bias, I think, personally. But
I also think this is a game where 90 minutes was a lot for him to come back and play. If you have Cristiano and you have Kulusevski, you may give him 60, 65. Let him – and he knows he's not going to have to run a full race. So I think that was part of it too. But that ball was one where Ramsey was on the back post with his hands up. I understand Dybala, the first is to turn and try to fire, but the angle was so hard, and there was two defenders there and the keeper. That was a tough one. But yeah, I think this was.
I don't think he saw Ramsey.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, I don't think he saw. By the time he turned and everybody that was in the path, in the line between them,
No, his
Morata
first
was
chance was
even there. You
fire.
had two defenders keep. I mean,
He was
yeah,
8 yards out. You got to have. I mean, if anyone who's played, your first inclination, put your head down and blast it towards the goal. But
yeah,
yeah, no, I think this is a game where he could, if he knew he had 65 minutes, I think he would have saw. But yeah, you're right. The passing was a little bit off. He had a couple, like you said earlier, a couple passes to nobody. And remember, he hasn't trained fully that much with this group too. If you think
yeah,
about it, I mean, what's he been back like maybe a week fully training, 2 weeks, a week and a half. So I think that's part of it too. But I mean, like you said, the work was there. Some of the touches were there. The creativity was there. The 1-2 and this kind of the slalom runs that he does were there later in the match too. So I mean, you're building towards something. Which I know you want to talk about the Dybala a little bit more, but last
we will
season,
towards the end. Yeah, we
yeah, last season when he was on, he was one of the better players in the world when he was on. So that's the talent you have. And obviously somebody's coming back from a thigh injury like he did. And we saw what happened against Lyon. He could barely walk at the end. So that's, he's just getting back now. Remember, that was 3 months ago. So, yeah, I think we're going to see great things from him. I think it's going to take some time. And obviously with Cristiano, if he was there, you'd have more space because of what he attracts. So it gives
yeah,
Dybala more space to operate and not have two or three people
yeah.
with him.
Yeah, and we'll get into all that in a little bit here. So that was 32nd minute, 33rd minute. Shortly after that one, Ramsey gets into a good area. He whips a great ball in there, but
Yeah.
Bernardeschi and Morata couldn't get to it. 40th minute, man, what a great run of play. Everybody doing everything right. Ball comes across, and Cuadrado tries to put every ounce of him into this thing and just cranks it off the bar. And Jesus Christ, when shit like that happens, you think this is going to be one of those nights where it just might not fall your way. And that's just frustrating. You just, oh man, you just got to hit target there. You have to. You absolutely have to hit target. I know we're talking inches here when you go bar or whatnot, but man, he put so much sauce on that thing. It's just like, Christ, man.
I think when he hit it, I thought it was going in because the camera angle was directly behind, and it was like that's labeled and went flying. So yeah,
uh,
you're right. It was just a bit of unluckiness. I mean, yeah, a little
yeah,
bit less pace. That's 1-0.
it sucks, man. It sucks. That's a rough one. And then 5 minutes later, we thought we had the breakthrough. Great ball from Cuadrado because he did it the second he had to. No messing around. Morata makes a great run, and again, Morata by like a toenail
I mean,
gets
it's like
called
armpit like this.
Oh
It's
my
crazy.
God. Dude,
Unbelievable.
those are so chintzy, man. That's two just chintzy calls, man. So it gets called back. Yeah, we end up going at the half. It's 0-0. I don't know, man. I thought honestly it wasn't that bad. We talked about some of these opportunities we were getting. I mean, you're talking about a sloppy 10 minutes, but throughout that half, it was just the crispness of the passes wasn't there. It wasn't
Yeah.
sharp in the final third. The odd time it just wasn't falling for us. And then you get the Cuadrado instance, you get the unlucky call on Morata. We could easily have a couple goals. Granted, Verona could probably have one. We were looking at a 2-0, maybe 2-1 half. If things fell our way. And I thought it was fine overall. Yeah, I would have loved for Dybala to have been better, but honestly, I wasn't expecting Dybala to be the MVP of last year because of the circumstances you already touched on. Bernardeschi, I thought there was issues there again with keeping the width, his positioning. I was hoping Pirlo could correct that. Overall, I was feeling fine. I thought, hey, we kept going. We had this little lull in there, but we got stronger towards the end of the half. Pick it up, push the guys hard out of the start, wrap this thing up, get in control, and let's take it from there. I wasn't that concerned. How are you feeling at halftime?
Well, I mean, after the goal disallowed, I mean, that was, like you said, in millimeters on that. And I felt, okay, yeah, you're right. The balance of play, about 30 minutes of good, a lot of Christmas. The pitch looked really soaked. I don't know. It looked like very heavy. I, I was hoping that he would make a change at a half or about the 50-minute mark and bring on Kulusevski. That obviously he waited for that, and we saw what happened. But yeah, I mean, I was fine. I mean, I thought it was one of those games where we talked about Verona a little bit and how they tactically were playing. They had a goal disallowed. Juve had hit Cuadrado hit the crossbar. So I felt good. I thought they were going to come out. I thought they'd make a couple of changes, and knew that they'd really only had 2 or 3 subs that they could go to. I mean, obviously because of the Ronaldo and some of the other, and McKinney probably wasn't going to play because of just returning yesterday, I think, to the full squad. So I thought it would be Kulusevski coming in, and I was hoping at halftime it would change the pace of play. But I felt pretty good until they conceded.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the second half. I was the same, feeling good. We get to the second half. No changes, and I didn't expect any changes, maybe just tactically, positionally.
Yep.
Talked about Bernardeschi, and now Bernardeschi was going to be on Pirlo's wing. Again, getting back to, would he be vocal enough with now him being on his sideline in order to make those adjustments? Help Bernardeschi, give him more time by keeping that width, just like we saw Chiesa do quite well. Yeah, I mean, we started off the half. It wasn't the way we finished the first half, where we started to look strong, more likely to score. It was kind of a bit back and forth, a little cagey there. It started to look like we were content just getting the ball in an area and crossing it in. Bernardeschi did actually get a decent ball in the 57th minute, but it was cleared from Morata's feet. And then it was about 3 minutes later, and you get a classic Bernardeschi. Now, this play, I saw some Juventini giving it to the other 2 players involved, one of which was Dybala, saying that one of those guys has to get to that pass. It's not Bernardeschi's fault. Bullshit, in my opinion. That was a garbage pass. It was literally splitting 2 players. Both of them would have had to fucking, I don't even know. Like, it's just,
They probably would have picked the booking to crash through him. The way the ball was, it was a terrible pass.
it was literally like you have 2 players. This pass split the 2 of them.
Yeah.
How would you know? Like, if I was involved in that play and I see it going that far ahead of me on whatever side, I'm thinking there's a guy opposite he's trying to go to. And then when you look, there's nobody there but a Hellas Verona midfield. And even he's surprised that the ball's coming to him. And he even was like, holy shit, what am I doing here? And then they come up the pitch. Of course they score. And then, yeah, not long, Kulusevski comes in for Bernardeschi literally after that goal. And it's just so frustrating. And you're just thinking, like, what the hell? And I know some Juventini were even going further on that play, breaking down the defending and how it got that way. But at the same time, we literally set them up to come down our throats. It was just like this passing was so brutal. And I'm sorry, but you've got to be smarter. And some of the guys trying to protect Bernardeschi and saying it's his first time at that position, this is the kind of play that really doesn't matter where the hell you're playing on the pitch. If you don't have the play, you eat it and you go back, you start backwards. To throw it into the middle, right to the other team, in the center of the park, that's just fucking piss poor. I cannot defend that. This guy is just useless, no matter where you put him. I don't care what people are going to say, whether it's a bias or whatever. He's simply not good enough. And he's running out of friggin' positions to play. Right now, if he can play center back, he holds a smidge of value. And I doubt he can do that because he can't play anywhere else. We put him on the goddamn pitch. Lastly is goalkeeper, and we got Pinsolio above him, so let's get rid of this guy. I'm done with him. The projects, moving him all over the goddamn place, I'm over it. Running, going into space, attacking this, it's not enough when everything else is dog shit. That's where I stand. Chris?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been done with him since last year. I mean, he has, in the last 3 seasons, 2 good matches. The Atletico game when he drew the penalty and then one other game where he scored a goal, but he's just he doesn't offer you anything. The passing today is a mistake you expect at the youth level to make that type of pass. You don't expect that at a professional. Like you said, no reason to split it there and play it. He's afraid to take players on 1v1, or he just can't do anything. He's very limited, and he doesn't belong at all on the team. The problem is no one will take him, and they obviously tried to loan him out over this Marcata, then no one will take him. The problem is you just don't have, the thing is he really just has to be there in case someone gets hurt. That's really it. He really can't be playing anymore, period, in any match against any competition. Doesn't matter if it's a top team or the lower side of Serie A.
Yeah. I missed the instance in the 36th minute that I wanted to discuss. I want to get your take because some Juventini were saying it was a PK and others were saying that it wasn't. Bernardeschi was lobbying for a call, had his jersey tucked a bit. I saw nothing. I wouldn't have called it personally. That's just me.
It was not. I mean, you see that a lot. I mean,
I've seen them called. Don't get me wrong. I've seen it called. I think it could have gone either way, but it wasn't anything I was outraged by. Let's put it that.
He has to do more to get a penalty based on the way. It was questionable, but I think they would have buzzed it, especially how they've called. I mean, it's a little bit more tight this season in Serie A than it was last year, where every handball, everything was a penalty.
Yeah.
I think you definitely seen a reduction overall in penalties, but no, for me it was nothing. And then you had Ramsey as well later in the game too, thinking he got shoved, which he didn't. But,
and at the end of the first half, there was also lobbying for
the
handball, and I actually didn't get a good look, and they weren't showing replays at the half, which was kind of driving me nuts on my feed. It was really pissing me off because I didn't get a good look at it. Did you get a decent look or read?
Yeah, they showed it went off his shoulder. What do you watch the games on?
DAZN, so there just wasn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I get ESPN Plus, but I think it's the world feed anyways. But they showed it went off Bonucci's shoulder from the angle I saw.
Great. Okay. So Bernardeschi gets taken off. We start to see Kulishevsky come in. In the 66th is where you could kind of pinpoint where this switch goes off. All of a sudden, there's urgency in the play again. Of course, because this is something Juve's battled for a few seasons now. It's just waiting for these adverse scenarios to really turn it up and crank it up and have that direct approach, that attitude. Going after it. Stop being safe, basically. I feel that's the best way I could put it. I feel like we play so safe. And it's just got to change. It's got to be, if you want it, go after it. Go out and get this game. Take control. Rest later. You know what I mean? Like, stop trying to sleepwalk through games and almost like exert minimal amounts of energy, thinking that this result's just going to come. But you could literally pinpoint it to the 66th minute. 68, Dybala draws a free kick in a great spot. And honestly, from the 66th on, Dybala was a different guy. He was altogether. That match, start to the 66th, Dybala was not himself. 66th on, he was a whole nother level. It was much, much better, way more improved. His passing started to get linked, and you can almost see when he sent this ball, he was trying to hit, I think it was Bernardeschi on the wing before he subbed off, and he ended up just skying this damn thing, trying to send a one-time pass. And it was after that, it was almost like a sense of embarrassment, but Dybala was a different player from the 66 on to the end. Great shot by him, gets blocked, it goes wide. 71st minute, we're working it in. We get it to Morata. Morata tries to turn on this guy. He gets a shot off, but it's too close to the keeper. 73rd minute. And when it rains, it pours, man. And Bonucci gets hurt, making a run in midfield, way up there. And it's just like, what the hell are you doing up in there in the first place? But anyways, of course, he gets hurt. And later revealed that he had felt something in the match against Kiev as well. But again, there's no options. There's no option. So Pirlo spoke to it after the match and said that Bonucci had felt something against Kiev. Obviously, they thought he'd be fine, and I don't think they would have had any options other than going with a back four. But obviously, the medical staff and Pirlo, they felt confident in going with them, but unfortunately, didn't pay off. So 73rd minute, Bonucci comes off. Armband goes to Dybala. Frabotta comes in. Couple minutes after that, Dybala doing great work, works into a good spot, shot deflects off Hellas Verona player off the bar. Just that's the way it's going for us today. That's the way it was going. I mean, through all our frustrations, through all this, it was an incredibly unlucky match for Juve to not be ahead in this one. 78th minute, we find Kulusevski streaking up the wing. He takes his man on 1v1 and scores a beautiful goal. And now, we keep on with the urgency, and we're going to try to push for this win. And you're just hoping, let's find one. The ensuing 7 minutes, we get some pressure, but nothing really great as far as opportunities. Dybala sent a couple decent balls flying across, one going to the left, one going to the right. One missed Ramsey by a bit. The other missed the far post by a bit, and there was Frabotta, I believe, running back post, couldn't get to it. And that's just the way it was falling. In the 90th minute, Ramsey was completely gassed. Rioni comes on for him. But yeah, wave after wave just wasn't enough, and it was too little too late. And Pirlo called it after the match, and it was my thoughts on my post-match, which was just, we need to go after it. I felt we were too safe. And even when we talk about certain players and their mentalities and their attitude and the approach, Cuadrado I spoke to, Arthur is another guy for me. I love the way he is on the ball. Don't get me wrong. The guy is incredibly hard to dispossess. I don't think he did in this match.
No, I don't think he lost the ball at all.
So that part's fantastic. The part I have an issue with is the fact that there's opportunities where the progression is there that he's eating the ball. There are times he can play it up. He could have slipped it up to Ramsey several times. He could have slipped it up to Morata, Dybala on a couple, and it's not happening. For me, I just need more than just the holding and the laterals out of that spot. And Pirlo, he said Arthur had a good match after. He said he had a good match, but he's still learning. So I know that Pirlo feels that too. And I know that there's Juventini that were coming at me for what I said about Arthur, which is I need more. I saw the stats on him. Great stats, 90% something passing, all this. But again, if you're passing lateral and backwards, I don't care about your percentages. I want to see some through ball attempts. I want to see some of these launches. Like Rabiot sent a couple beauties in there, and you need that out of that role. And the guys are showing. So a lot of the defense for Arthur was that, well, once his runners figure out what they're doing, he'll be able to distribute. Well, no, because these guys are doing. There was opportunities there in this match for him to do it. And the other issue I had with, you're in the 85th minute, 86th minute, whatever it is, the urgency's on. You've got a stacked area with your players. You're chasing this game, trying to get those 3 points, and he turns and has it out to a D-man. Just throw it in the mixer, man. You've got all your players up there. Throw it in, and he's still not looking up there. That's just my one criticism. Is just,
yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit of time.
I gotta see a little bit more out of the distribution from the guy.
I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think you hit on something, and this is one of my frustrations. The last 25 minutes of play is that, though unlucky not to find a winner, they got the equalizer, but that level of play, and I think the big difference with Dybala was it was simpler. It was 1-2 touch with a lot of give and goes, a lot of creativity, a lot of space. Kulusevski moves. He didn't stay on the left. The difference is Bernardeschi would just stay on the left. He doesn't move and make those runs into the middle. Ramsey is very active. And Morata was much better hold-up play and off the guys. So I think that's the biggest difference that you see. And that's my biggest frustration, Alberto, is seeing that on a consistent basis. That last 25 minutes, there's going to be slogs and matches, obviously, but that 1-2, that creativity just only gets there at adverse moments or once or twice when you watch some of these Bayern Munich, they just moving like that. The pressure is the entire match. That's my biggest frustration. And I know it's going to take some time with Pirlo to get the tactics and get these guys to play his way. I think you saw that a little bit with Bonucci. I mean, I think I saw online there's a little discussion about him, the tactics to come up in the midfield when they were pressed to create that extra surge. That's why he was wandering a couple of times. His timing was terrible, but I could see that being a move. I'm wondering what they'll do now if he's out, and then eventually, because that's not really De Ligt's strength.
Yeah.
But I think what you saw the last 25 minutes is what Juve can be, and then you add on Ronaldo, hopefully in the next week or so. And I think that's the excitement, that creativity to create multiple chances by runners throughout and just wreak havoc. That's the positive that I look at it.
Well, I guess the tough thing about it is trying to get the read on what's best for us. And the reason is because you go one match where your 3-4-1-2 or whatever works better than the 4-3-3 when he changes, makes an adjustment. In this particular match, it was the opposite, and it got better when Bonucci moved. We went to 4-3-3, and that's what gained Kulusevski the freedom. But not only that, but how much of it was Verona trying to settle for that draw and push them back, and we were able to kind of go at them wave after wave, right? So it's a tough one. It's tough to read how much of it is what, but there's options. And I said this after the match against Kiev. The nice thing is Pirlo has options. It's just, I don't want to run into a scenario where, and I don't think Pirlo can afford it, because right now we're not getting the wins. Last year, Sarri was getting the wins somehow, some way. He was getting the wins. So with Pirlo dropping these points here, he's not going to have the ability, I don't think, to show as much faith as Sarri did in certain guys in certain roles. Like Kulusevski, we're going to have to figure out what we're doing with that guy. I see him and Ramsey occupying that same spot. Kind of in behind the forwards, kind of running forward, a little bit of being able to go sideline to sideline and attack, right? Once Ronaldo gets in there, it gets skinny there, right? Like we're not going to be able to fit all these guys into it. You still have Chiesa that's in the mix. And Chiesa, maybe he's one of those left wing backs, right? At this rate, with our injury levels, Sandro's going to come back to play center back. Really, I could see him being one of those left center backs. It's going to be interesting. Pirlo and his adjustments in general, or lack thereof, because a lot of Juventines are saying there's not enough there. How do you think he's been doing so far? Like, just in your personal opinion, Chris, like what do you, let's go this way. What do you like and what don't you like so far?
Well, I mean, overall, I think his attitude towards the game is a lot different. I mean, he's obviously looking to attack and move. I mean, and he's flexible. I think with Sadi, you saw 4-3-3, and that was it. I think you see adaptability throughout the match. And I mean, Allegri gets gruff, but he would adapt. I think what you see, and I'm curious with Pirlo, is because in his thesis and in how he's talked for years, he was always a 4-3-3. And I know you saw that at the end and you've seen them when they drop in, but I think that may be their best. And what does it look like when De Ligt is back? Who's your best? And Demiral had a good game. He is, Bonucci did not. His defending was horrid in spots. So who's your best? And how long are they going to ride him? So I think the tactic, he's had it right. I mean, I think some of this is forced because of Ronaldo with McKennie and some of these others, these injuries, Chiesa suspension. But I think the one thing, the frustration for me is the move to take off Bernardeschi today, or make moves 50 minutes instead of waiting 63, 64 minutes. It just wasn't enough. And they usually have that hook around the 60-minute mark, but sometimes, it's not working. And, I think one of the things we're going to have to be a little bit patient with the lack of preseason, the lack of his experience, and some of these players. You had Chiesa just arriving, right? You've had Dybala just getting fit. You have De Ligt just getting back. It's going to take some time for us to build. But I think you're looking at Kulusevski needs to be a main player, and Ramsey is doing well under Pirlo. So I think he's going to have a place. But I think you're going to see a front three of Ronaldo, Dybala, and Morata. Pirlo commented that's he's going to work it that way to start. So unless one of them gets hurt, I think you're going to see that with then competition for the wings. So whether that's a 3-back or 4-back system, but I'm okay. I mean, I think there's going to be, like, we have to remember, I mean, obviously he's a legend, but he's never managed before, and it's going to take some time. And I think we're just accustomed to them finding ways to work this out. Has also helped to have somebody like Ronaldo just rescue you for the last couple of seasons. I think it's going to be a little more of a grind. This may be a year where they're going to grind and have to get on a groove. The good news is, you expect Milan to fall off. And you just, if you hang around within 3 or 4 points, you're able to make a run when you figure things out towards I actually think you'll see a little bit of inconsistency until, December timeframe, where they start to get an idea of his philosophy and being able to play his way consistently with a consistent squad, barring any injuries.
Well, that's, I guess, takes us right into the next question I wanted to ask you is, how long do you think until Pirlo settles in, and where you think Juve will sit as far as Serie A is concerned when the dust settles?
I think you're going to have to wait until around Christmas time before you start to see. I think you need another 2 months, because De Ligt's going to be back maybe this weekend, but right.
Wow, I didn't think it was going to. Oh, well, I know it's been unclear, because you read one place where they say another couple weeks, and then you read another place that he's already training. They're just waiting for the okay from the doctor. So, yeah, I mean, 4 weeks ago they said he was well ahead of schedule, and it was originally ruled that he was going to be mid-November to third week of November. So this would be way ahead of schedule. So hopefully, sooner rather than later.
I mean, he's a key piece. I mean, other than Dybala last year and Ronaldo, he had a rough start, but he was phenomenal. He's a rock. And I think you saw Demiral today as an older school defender who isn't trying to score goals. He's, I saw it on Twitter from Carlo Garganese that he made a tackle and he's pumping his fist, very Chiellini-like. So I think it's going to take some time to be able to get that. You're going to get Chiesa to work in. I don't know. This may be a year. I think it's wide open. You have so many teams that are actually, good, and they're developing, whether it's Milan, Napoli, Inter struggled recently. Atalanta's dropped 2 games in a row, right? Like you expect those jump, but they're all going to be there. I think this is going to be another close year. And, but you look at the ultimate goals, the Champions League, and you and I were talking before, I watched Bayern Munich this weekend, and their tactics are, they're unbelievable, but they play suicidal high line with high pressure. When you look at a team like Juve with pace, if you look at Kulusevski, Chiesa, Ronaldo, Dybala, like they could play with those guys because of their pace and ability if they figure it out. And that's, for me, is the benchmark in the world right now is Bayern Munich, obviously bringing Champions League, but they're phenomenal. They haven't dropped a beat. But yeah, I don't know, right now, I would be okay going into the winter break in second or third. I think they're in Europa League. They're in like the 5th spot right now.
Yeah. So I think, as it sits, Juve's at 9 points. We're sitting in 5th. We know that Milan's 12 points. They're top, but they also have a game in hand. They'll be facing Roma tomorrow, and that'll be a big one. If they do go 5-0, they'll sit with a 6-point gap on Juve from top, which isn't the be all end all. And again, AC Milan still hasn't beat anybody, outside of Merida that's really impressive. So let's, again, I think to what you were saying with the drop off, there's going to be a drop off at some point. And then if you look there, we're 2 points away from second place because it's 11. We're still right in there. These points do hurt though. Dropping these points to Crotone and Hellas Verona. These are the ones you need to be taken, because we have to go through these clubs. And they're strong clubs. They're playing well. Hell, Sassuolo's in there. And
Sassuolo plays unbelievable. These are the games, though,
football
that over the last 9 years they've won. This is a game that they not, over the last 9 years they would win 2-1. That may be the difference this year. It just, at least in the first couple of months. You just thought that extra goal was coming, and it just didn't. I mean, it would help obviously if you had Ronaldo, he usually would find a way to save the day. But
Yeah,
I think
and
that's the
we
big
got
difference right now.
used to that. You know, we made a living off grinding wins. It was our thing, right? And now it's
One
just
nil.
they're just not happening right now, right? It's just not falling. But yeah, I mean, I think we'll be in the mix come the end of it. I think when you take four of these clubs, it could end any one of those variations. You could see any of these four clubs, like for me, Napoli, Milan, Juve, Merda, and I think you could mix them up and juggle them anyway. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to go right down to the wire. I don't see any of them really pulling away. With Pirlo, I mean, the fact that we're going to be rolling into November pretty quick, yeah, I think, man, I would love to say we start seeing some jumps here in the next bit, but the injury bug's hidden at the back, and Sandro still being a while is kind of crazy to me. So we'll see what he can do and where he can take us. Before we get into the topics of certain individuals, obviously we're going to talk about these injuries and how we can adjust and whatnot. I always leave it out for fans' comments after the match and whatnot. We're going to rifle through. We're going to go through them all, questions, whatever, because we're going to cover in some of it we already have. But Juve Loco right in. I feel sorry for Berna. He has zero confidence in himself right now, but it is self-inflicted. Poor game overall. We couldn't match Verona's intensity for most of it. We looked like the away side. Berna and Rusty Paulo were the worst for me. Roll on Barca. I think Paulo, like I said, in the 66th minute was a switch. His first half, everything leading up to that was very, very poor by his standards. But for me, Bernardeschi was by far the worst player.
Oh yeah, I think we're in agreement there.
Yeah. Miran Abulfati, my man, what is he? If you were Pirlo and you could only use Dybala or Morata in number 9 or striker position next to CR7, which one would you pick and why? Oh, man. Honestly, I'm fine rotating either of them, but I mean, it's tough. You have CR7 and Dybala who did incredibly well together last season. Morata is he adds a different element. The guy doesn't need much to get goals, and he always knows where to be. He sniffs out these rebounds and just getting in the right place, latching onto something. Ideally, like we spoke to earlier and you mentioned, Chris, I think the goal will probably to be somewhere where we could see all three.
I think that's what they're building towards.
Yeah. To pick gun to my head, though, honestly, right now, just in form, like if this thing was tomorrow, I'd probably choose Morata. If this thing's down the line and Dybala gets fit and whatnot, I'd probably choose him.
I agree. I agree because I mean, you look at Morata over. I mean, technically he scored today. Took away the goal. 2 goals against Dynamo Kiev. Goal against Crotone. He's in form. Dybala isn't fit, but if this is a quarterfinal round of 16 game and it's those two, it'd have to be Dybala. He'd be able to, because he gains so much more when Ronaldo's there because of the space that Ronaldo takes and the players he occupies, that he gives him space to be able to play. But I think you'll see. I think as we talked about, you're going to see all three of them now, and potentially, with Kulusevski, Chiesa behind them too as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, we get to the options. It'll be interesting to see how Pirlo starts to work because we still don't know what his one.
We don't know what the best 11 is. Yeah,
and what his 1B. So it's just going to have to be unlocked here as we go. Chris writes in, Bernardeschi can't play over half the game. Arthur looked very shaky. Rabiot was okay. Can't start playing with 15 minutes left to go. Yeah, we talked about waiting for these Asperger's scenarios and how they kill us. Arthur looking very shaky. I don't think he looked shaky. I think he just needs to do a little more with them. There needs to be a little more end product. That was one thing that I don't pick on just Arthur. I picked on a few guys. The end product needs to be there. That's all. Juan Sebastian writes in, I have so many things going through my mind at the moment. Kulishevsky over Dybala for now, and Frabota over everyone else on the left. Morata, Ramsey, Arthur, Demirel, and Danilo are doing well. We need Delict back ASAP. So, yeah, I mean, again, we're just, I think, a little bit too much on, and people are just going to say it's because I love Dybala. Yeah, I do love Dybala, but we have to be realistic about the guy hasn't played for so long. And then he had that gastrointestinal issue, and it's just like he just started training. He wasn't even training full. He trained for 10 minutes before he jumped in the Kiev match. Pirlo even said it. So it's like 10 minutes of training. Hell, that Kiev match was just 4 days ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's got 4 days of training or something in it.
It's not enough.
No, and the fact is, we've got these guys in. Like Morata hasn't been part of the club for a while now. Ronaldo's not in the lineup. Ramsey's kind of in the hole here. It's a new system. Dybala's got to get used to it too, and he hasn't had the opportunity. So I think we're asking a bit too much here. So Kulishevsky over Dybala, I mean, Kulishevsky needs to find his position, to be honest, because if Kulishevsky was playing in the position Dybala was, which Kulishevsky has, Kulishevsky struggles severely with the guy on his back. He does. And he did so in our own area.
He got dispossessed once.
And he coughed it up several times, and there was opportunities for Verona on the end of those. So even Kulishevsky is like, there's work to be done there. I don't think he's set in stone as like, we have to start this kid. I think we have to figure out where the best place is to play him. And I think it will be in that hole, to be honest, but that's just me. Needing Delict back? Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed.
I am Brett writes in, the positive is I'm excited to see what Ronaldo, Kulu, Morata, Dybala can do. Chris again writes in, we might think about starting Buffon for a bit. And then I was thinking, well, what was the hate on for Szczesny? And then all of a sudden Juventus Norway writes in, why is Szczesny a Juve keeper? He is so average, doesn't save shit. Bernardeschi is shit. Bonucci is so bad in many ways. Pirlo needs to get his shit together. Wow. So in all of this, I didn't really fault Szczesny on that goal, to be honest.
No, he got a hand on it, but no goalie saving that.
I can't fault him in that. Bonucci, we're gonna get to Bonucci for sure. But yeah, it's just Pirlo needing to get his shit together. Well, he never had his shit sorted in the first place. Yeah. He's learning on the fly. Like this is it. So
I mean, I understand the pedigree and where people are, but I think this is the time where you have to preach a little bit of patience. You look at the squad, you look at the system, the lack of preseason this year, how they've already had to start and stop with 2 players with COVID. I know other teams have more, and I think you just need to have it. And I mean, Buffon's going to play, but Szczesny is one of the top goalkeepers in the world. I mean, there's some times where he gets beat, but Favelli's goal today, I mean, he hit it so hard he pulled his hamstring. Yeah. So I don't.
I mean, the thing is even Buffon would have his struggles, and I know another Juventino mentions the struggles of Szczesny giving up the ball. Neither one of these keepers has ever been a ball playing keeper. Now they're being asked to quite a bit in Pirlo's system, and that's just going to be a whole nother transition on its own, and they got to get together. But honestly, like, I mean, I'm not seeing issues with Szczesny really, to be honest, other than I do criticize him at times. I don't think he has the presence required in the area. I think he needs to be louder. You see some miscommunications between he and defenders at times. He bobbled one really easy ball against Kiev, and both his defenders had no idea he was coming out, and it's just little miscommunication like that. That's my only real thing. I don't think he's got that command, but I don't think it's to the point where we need to make a switch by any means. Chris then writing in again, also Tech turned the ball over a few times when we didn't need to play out of the back. But we had so many giveaways, stupid giveaways. That's been something that's happened quite a bit with this Pirlo's Juve. And I think, again, it's just them getting used to it. I think as they get more and more comfortable, the turnovers should hopefully decrease. But Pirlo really needs to focus on not losing the ball, especially with just lazy passing. The other thing too that I noticed in this one is not even this one, a couple matches ago against Kiev for sure, he's definitely eased off the press. Pirlo has completely eased off the press and that tenacity of winning the ball back because it was causing us positional disasters. Guys ended up chasing the ball far too much and we were leaving guys open to the point where we had flanks left unattended and just giving up so much ground to opponents. So you could totally see that. And maybe that patience was what was killing the urgency in the offensive phase. I don't know if they were, you know what I mean? Because you can definitely see that it's been night and day in this one. When you saw the Pirlo Juve out of the gate, it was go, press, win the ball back and just keep pressure on these teams. And in the same regards, we were given away opportunities because when those turnovers do happen, because they will, you're never going to go through a match without turnovers. We were just left susceptible, and then making that pressure, constantly trying to win that ball back quickly. Well, the problem is when you don't, and they slip it by you, you're in trouble.
The big difference there, though, is McKinney gives you that ability against Sampdoria. If you're talking about that game, like he was able to press and play. But that's not a thing that Rabiot or Artur do, or even Bentancur. They don't really press, and they definitely switch it off too. So it's really a personnel thing too as well.
But it's also the high line too with the defenders, and he's laid off of that, and the two just weren't working. He tried against Roma to still issue a press. However, he kept the back line back as a safety net, but all it did was allow Roma a ton of space to just go over our mids.
They bypassed the midfield.
They just bypassed the midfield altogether, and it was a nightmare. So he's just got to put it all together and just decide, I want to do this, or no, I don't. And it seems like he's leaning towards standoff, because when he had the midfield with Rabiot and Bentancur, those are two guys you can do that with, no problem. Like, no problem whatsoever. And he still didn't. And I think he's weary of it. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I'm okay if they kind of let off in that, but I'm just not okay with the lazy giveaways, the unnecessary ones, right? But it's just something I noticed with the press.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and then we get going. Daniel's got Kulusevski changed the game for the better. He deserves a start. And then he just continues overall bad game from Juve, but dropping points at home is inexcusable. Yeah, Luis DeVito writes in, concern rate is at 25%. Crotone was bad. Okay. He got it wrong today. However, I would argue for as bad as we played, we were unlucky tonight. I think 25% is fine. I'm okay with the 25. It should be a low percentage. We talked about where they are in the table. It's still anybody's we're still in the race. The race isn't over right now. It's just not ideal. Let's put it that way. I love this handle, by the way. Your mom is a legend. I told you to wear ADP. You jinxed it. Just kidding, bro. It was Pharrell and his bullshit, the ones who jinxed it. Yeah. Okay. That's on you. These kits, man. I love it. And then Finton writes in, there were a couple of moments where I could see Ramsey throwing his hands in the air in frustration due to our lack of momentum and drive to push forward. Yeah, we talked about that too. Absolutely. Rami writes in, earlier substitutions were needed. Enough burning one substitution by starting useless Berna. Need to play Kulu from start, particularly with Chiesa suspended. Well, we talked about this earlier on in there, and I thought, honestly, if you're going to figure out where Berna is going to go, this would have been the game to do it. I was okay with it because, honestly, he's not going to be taking any other spots. He's not going to be taking a spot from Chiesa. He's not going to be taking a spot from Dybala. He's not going to take Morata's spot. He's not going to take Ramsey's spot. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, he's got to attempt that. Like, Pirlo's got to attempt that because there's nowhere else he's going to go, to be honest. He's going to be sitting on the bench, and just if somebody gets hurt, he's a rotational guy, right?
I think we're at that point now. I think you saw that today. I mean, I think that's one thing everyone agree on is that Bernardeschi is terrible and shouldn't play anymore.
Yeah, and this is the one. Okay, so HHM writes in, why are we so weak against high pressure? I honestly thought we handled it decent today. I thought we handled it decent. I think we created our own issues, and the giveaways that we were given were not from pressure. They were literally so stupid. Like just poor plays. Chemistry. It was almost just lack of chemistry. It was very strange, but I don't think it was necessarily from the press. Yeah, they were able to get some giveaways on it, but it wasn't as terribly threatening as a lot of Juventini make it out to seem. Like Hellas Verona, like if we honestly look at this thing and watch it back, like we're not talking about a team that should have had 5 goals on us.
I think Juve broke it once too, really nice, and the end product wasn't there, but they were able to, like you said, about what happened to Juve, like they were able to bypass right away, and Rabiot was up the field with with pace and be able to break it. So no, I think it was fine. I think tactically after they scored, Verona packed it in and limited the space. That was really the biggest thing, and they played tactically a really good match, and it was an older school Serie A game, to be honest with you, from a Verona standpoint.
Yeah, and I agree. And Juric, I said it on my match day preview. He's at about 500 as a record against Juve. He's actually plays them very, very well. So, yeah, this is the one I want to get into. Moran Abelfadi, another comment, and he says, Dybala really needs to get his shit together. I love the guy, but he is not worthy of 10 million euro salary. Sorry, but that's the truth. Check how much impact a player who earns that kind of money makes. If we extend his contract that high, we are screwed. And we can never move him if it doesn't work out with him, which doesn't seem very unlikely. He is not very versatile, and that's his biggest weakness. If he expects us to build the team around him, he needs to be much more convincing. Wow. So, I got into this with a friend on Twitter after this match because he basically put out a post as well and just said Dybala is shit. That's all he put. Dybala is shit in one of my posts, and I just said that is just I just can't wrap my head around that we're. I don't know if it's because of the circumstances surrounding his contract and all this and the rumors, because I don't believe he's asking for 15 million euros as are rumored. I don't know if this is why we're being so ridiculous as far as him coming back from all this time off. The guy just comes off an MVP season. He's only had one statistically poor season where he actually performed the job to what he was being asked to do by Allegri. We all know about the midfielder role that he was put in. And every other year he's produced, and he's always scored heavy-weighted goals, especially in Serie A. Champions League, the argument is there, okay? The argument can be made for him in Champions League needing to step it up a bit, but at the same time, we've got team issues in Champions League too, and it's crazy to me when I see a lot of holes and a lot of issues, and we want to stick it to one guy, especially one guy who's, in my opinion, done a hell of a lot since the day we brought him in. I can't wrap my head around this. And Chris, I got to get your thoughts on this comment and these guys that are feeling this way. Like, what are your thoughts?
I think after one match, it's extremely premature to talk about that. I mean, I understand what's going on with his contract, but if you look at the body of work, which you just hit on, since he came from Palermo, except for one season, he's been invaluable, the MVP last year. When he's on, I mentioned earlier, there's not many other players in the world. The problem is he's not on a lot. He goes through the ebbs and flows of a season, and he is not even when he's good, he's really good. But when he's poor, he's poor. But again, I think folks are jumping down his throat for one match after being out for 3 months and having a pretty bad injury from a muscular situation and not being able to train at all. So, I mean, the thing is he's 26 years old, right?
Yeah, it's 26, 27.
Okay. If you're going to sign him for 3 years or whatever it would be, at even if it's 10 million euros, where are you going to find a player of his quality that fits in? What is what are others from Juventini? What are they looking for? I understand Kulusevski, but they're different players in a way. I mean, obviously, Dybala is just a little bit different. I think they can work together, and you have multiple players left-footed that can play on either side too and cut in. I think I've been enamored with him since the day he signed. I think he's a valuable player. I think he's also going to be someone you're going to want to build upon. If Ronaldo is gone after a year or 2 years, you need him. And then you look to replace Ronaldo with someone, who can play at a striker at that level or a wing. So I think it's so premature. If this is February and you've seen inconsistent play, then you can have a conversation. But I think he'll be extended by then. If it bleeds out, then something else is up. And, they've toyed with him before. They've looked to sell him, which I don't understand. I just don't think you're going to get the value of return right now on him.
I agree. And I called it that, and I told my friend on Twitter there, and I said, I just see it as a gross overreaction to one match after he's been back, trained for like next to nothing really in the grand scheme of things. And the fact that he's coming off his most consistent year as far as performances go, winning the MVP. It's just, I don't see it. I see it just only as a huge overreaction. Yeah. 10 million euros for this guy. I mean, let's not get mad at Dybala because of what the market has come to. And you want to look around at guys making that money. I could go out and pick guys making more that have less impact than Dybala. And the other thing is too, we got to be careful what we wish for in a certain circumstance, because we could get rid of him. Then we're going to lose Ronaldo, and you could bring in guys that may not work out at all. And then what? I don't think his quality can be denied. And I definitely don't think it's fair given what he's done throughout his tenure with us.
Yeah.
It's just that everybody's putting him on this mega star platform. And it's like, why does he have to be?
He's not a mega star. I mean, I think he's just a really good player. He's not Messi or Ronaldo.
Yeah, he's a solid star. Is he elite? Yeah. No, but why does he have to be elite?
Because he wears the 10 shirt.
And this is the part that I'm struggling with, is because everyone's like, well, no, he's got to pick it up. Why does he have to pick it up when I'm watching a club that fields Bernardeschi and Cuadrado and thinks that these are answers as wingbacks? Like that's a part that frustrates the hell out of me. It's like, I see so many other problems, and we want to take arguably our best player and shit on him because he's been out for 3 months, and we're just going to ignore all the bullshit that we just watched in this match. And yeah, he struggled, but like I said, from the 66th minute on, he was probably our best down that stretch, and was very, very unlucky to not give us the win with that shot that went off the bar. But when you're watching guys shit the bed, game in, game out, that have been training nonstop, that have been there the whole time, that don't have injuries, that didn't have gastrointestinal problems, what the hell's the excuse is there? And then you want to shit on Dybala just because he's not this elite. Well, why does he have to be? And again, the world football market has made that range of money for what he's doing.
Yeah. I agree.
That's fair market value for a guy like Paulo Dybala, For Christ's sakes, you guys, Cristiano Ronaldo makes triple that. Do you know how many players we can add with that? Like, it's just, honestly, the argument could be made that you could solidify your roster and take all these holes we have, like an actual fullback, maybe some depth in center back that isn't over this age, that's constantly injured too. You could fill holes with that money. And I think maybe Juve was jumping the gun with it's tough, because when you get the opportunity to sign Ronaldo, I say this every time, you have to take it. But it stretched us and it hurt us. But I don't see the correction being getting rid of Paulo Dybala.
No,
I don't
I
see
totally
that as
agree.
that the correction.
He's a player you need when you have somebody like Ronaldo, the ability, and you see how they work together. And I think it's just a gross overreaction from folks, and people have short memories to be able to see what he did last year when he's in form and he's healthy. There's not a lot of players like him in the world. You said he's not superstar, but he's right there. And when he's on, it's a joy to watch. And I think folks just need to relax a little bit. Let's get him fit and see how he does with Ronaldo back playing. Let's see how he does. We forget what he's done against Barcelona in the past. So let's see what he does on Wednesday.
I agree. Speaking of other guys that drive me nuts, Juan Cuadrado. There was a post by someone who's been a guest on the All Juvecast, and he put that Juan Cuadrado is the most underappreciated Juve player of all time. Oh man,
that's a pretty. That's a big statement to make. Of all time, I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife. He can play. He's played multiple positions. I think he adapted a little bit. I think what hurt him last year too is Barzagli leaving, because he was working. You saw the changes in right back when he had to fill in, and then Barzagli left. He's like we talked about earlier. He's great taking players on 1v1. He's one of Dybala, Ronaldo, him, Kulic. Like they're the players who take people on, who beat you with pace. I don't think he's the most underappreciated player of all time. I think there's a number of different players, even a couple ones in the last 15 to 20 years that fit the bill. And actually somebody who played on the right before him, Lichtsteiner, I would say is probably more underappreciated than Cuadrado, or if you go even farther back, Tudor, who's now on the coaching staff, or even one of my favorites is Paulo Montero.
Tacchinardi.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
And this is the thing is I go, man, I don't know. He has a good game against Kiev, and he'll pull these good games out here and there. And then all of a sudden it's like, we don't appreciate Juan Cuadrado. Dude, where were you for the last 6-7 matches when he was god awful? It's just like he'll have these matches or just unlock a game here and there. And then it's like, oh, we don't appreciate Cuadrado. Look, he is not the answer at right wing back. He's simply filling in. The fact that he can fill in is great, and we appreciate it, but he is not the answer. And that's what people are getting at. And it basically came back at me with, name me a more effective right wing back that we had. And I was like, are you serious? Lichtsteiner is the last true right wing back that we had that was solid. We had Dani Alves, who actually shit the bed for most of that season. He turned it on towards the end, but his position changed. Allegri switched his role, and then Alves got better. Otherwise, he struggled there too. But yeah, Lichtsteiner, far more of an impact for me than Juan Cuadrado at right wing back. And
well, you knew what you were getting. You got consistency from Lichtsteiner. Cuadrado, you get the brilliant moments.
Yeah,
you get some really good goals, and then you get some crazy slide tackles. It's just like you said, it's just up and down. Which with Lichtsteiner, you just run for 95 minutes.
I just thought that one was crazy, and of course, it got all sorts of comments. It was good. So, Bonucci injured, Chiellini injured, Sandro needs about a month off. We've got the match coming up with Barca. What's your lineup going into this? If you were Pirlo, what do you think we do?
I think you go to a 4-back system.
You think
I think you have to.
3?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think it's Danilo and Demiral in the middle, with for both on the left, Cuadrado on the right. I mean, the only other option at center back is Weston McKennie, but I don't think he's going to play. If you're going to go at a 3-back, I don't think they're going to play him against Barcelona in out of position. He's played that for Schalke before, but I think if someone gets hurt, you'll see him come in that role, or he might play over the weekend. But I think that's the options you have. You have to go at 4, especially with Coutinho's hurt now, so he's not going to play. I saw that he's out for a couple of weeks, so that's less pace that will be coming at them. But yeah, I think you look at that, and I think you're going to see Dybala, Morata up top, you might actually see a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-1-2 instead of actually the 4-3-3. I think you'll see Ramsey play with those two guys, Kulusevski, and then I think you're going to see Rabiot Torre again, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I
And
think
then probably Chiesa.
will obviously be pending on the results of CR's test, because apparently tomorrow's the deadline.
Oh, that's right. That's the big one.
So if he's able to make that match, well, and the thing is, you're getting mixed reports too. Some say 24 hours, some say 48. But the latest I read was 24 hours based on the fact that Juve's the home.
So UEFA. Yeah.
So the thing is, yeah, that's going to be a bit, that'll be interesting. I think Ronaldo, obviously, if he's a go, he makes a lineup. Morata, I think we talked about this. He's the hot hand right now. I think you got to get him in there. And then Ramsey, it's hard to take him out of the lineup when he's playing in that hole. I think Dybala will just be a victim of the circumstances based on the fact he hasn't had enough minutes. I probably would expect Dybala coming off the bench in that match, maybe around 65th, 70th, taking out one of those guys, depending how it goes or whatnot. I think it's going to be interesting to see, how he lines it up. But I think, you have to go 4-3 for sure, in the back and the mids, and then you're 1-2, or you could argue for a 4-3-3 and play Kulusevski on the right side or whatnot. There's obviously an argument to be made for Chiesa. I think he's done well in his appearances since he's been brought along. It'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting to see. And I mean, constantly this early on in the season, almost every season, the question is asked, what's the best lineup? What's our best lineup? What's our best lineup? It's still too hard to determine. Too many new guys, still trying to see them play in certain positions and certain roles to really be able to hone in on what's going to be their best. Like I said, Kulusevski is one guy. There's no denying his talent, his skill, but it's just finding the right spot.
Agreed. Agreed.
We're going to close off with something I put out as a poll question. Chris, has been awesome having you on. Wicked.
Oh, thanks so much.
Sergio Ramos on a free to Juventus. I put the poll question out. 64% to about 36% in favor of one of these answers. But I want to know your position and your stance on Sergio Ramos on a free to Juve.
Sergio Ramos is 35 years old, right?
34 currently, yes.
Okay. So a couple years ago, yes, but unfortunately the wages that he's going to demand and how that will stunt Demiral's playing, because Sergio Ramos is going to come and sit the bench. He's not going to take a rotation role, kind of like Chiellini is going to have. I think your future at center back is a 4-3-3, and you're going to have Demiral and De Ligt. And I think bringing him on is going to stunt that. And then he's going to look to play, and you're going to have to be forced to sell Demiral, which you don't want to do. You saw today the benefit of having somebody like that when you have the Bonucci's of the world and stuff like that. So I don't think he's going to go. I think he'll go to Paris Saint-Germain, or he'll go to like Manchester United, Manchester City. I don't think it's worth it, especially the wages. If the wages weren't there, I'd say that. But again, you carrying Ronaldo, you're going to give Dybala probably the 10 to 12 million euros that we talked about. And Ramos is going to carry, I don't even know what his salary is off the top of my head. So it's pretty high. I don't think it's worth it. I don't want to impact Demiral and De Ligt in the future of the back.
I gotta admit, usually I don't have an issue picking a side, yes or no. Like I don't have an issue, and it was 64% no on this poll question. I'm tough. I'm having a tough time on this one. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I totally agree with you. It totally goes against the age thing, 100%, and the project, and this movement that we're going towards. In the same token as you go out and you get a Ronaldo when you have the opportunity, Ramos is a physical freak as well. his training regimen is right up there with Ronaldo's. He doesn't get hurt a lot. And Real Madrid is night and day without this guy at the back. He's a monster. He's the kind of guy that you hate when your team goes up against, but you would love to have him on your side in a heartbeat. The only thing is, yeah, you've hit on those points, but the thing is, it's just, man, these are the kind of free transfers that you want to take a shot at, because this is the more type of free transfer that makes sense, right? When Juve tries to build a club based off free transfers, that's tough. That's tough business to do because you're passing on better targets because of a market opportunity, right? This is a situation where we're going to be losing Chiellini. Okay, this is it for him. It's clear as day. His body cannot keep up. A lot of people were calling for that last year. Breaks my heart. Love the guy.
Yeah, but it's time.
Bonucci is on a crazy downward spiral.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so to say that we're locked up in this position, which was what a lot of Juventini were commenting, I can't see it. I don't agree with it because these two guys are unreliable. Bonucci, a lot of people want to talk about his ball playing ability, and I've even mentioned it. I mean, it's great when it's there, but it's not the be all end all for our play. His ball movement, it's just not enough. And when
you have somebody like Artur now who can play deeper,
when your first job too is to defend, and you're busy twerking. It's
I love the leg stick out when the guys draw. Like it's
dude, that's beer league shit right there, man. Like I see that on Sundays all the time out here, and I'm just like, Bonucci, man, holy, I would light you up in my league. It's funny, man. I
hear you.
Ramos is an interesting one, man. It's hard. If I had to like gun to my head, I'd probably say no. But I wouldn't hate it, to be honest.
No, if he did, I'm just saying it doesn't fit. If you look at the work they've done to turn over the midfield in the defense, and you know, obviously Rugani's on loan, but they'll probably look to bring in another young center back. It just doesn't go in the direction they are. Again,
yeah.
I'm also thinking of the next 3 to 4 years future, and he gives you maybe 1-2 more years. And I mean, again,
and that's why the free part of it makes sense, because you're not obligated to anything outside of that. You pay his wages, his contract, for whatever you want, and it's a move you make on a free because you know that there's no money on the outside of it.
No, agreed.
You just bring them in to try and put you closer, fill that gap, and you can honestly, if you're bringing a guy like that in on a free, it just gives you a little bit of time to bring in other guys there, and you can put your attention elsewhere on the roster because, you know, that guy's going to be a lock. He would be a guy you wouldn't have to worry about. And by the way, I absolutely hate Sergio Ramos.
He's a walking red card.
Yeah. So that's just for everybody. If you're thinking I love Ramos, I absolutely do not. And I can't stand the guy. But again, that's the type of player he is.
I think everyone said that about Ronaldo before he signed too. Couldn't stand him, and then he's yours, and you don't want anybody else. The other thing is,
you see a different side of players when they join you. And you start to see the outside of the field stuff a lot more because you're into that. You're following them.
You're following them. Yeah, the socials.
Yeah, exactly, right? So,
no, there's a point. There's a piece to that too. But you hate to play him. You hate to see him because you see what he's done to players.
Absolutely. So we're going to wrap up. It's been awesome. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
To tune in. Chris reached out, and again, I can't stress this enough. I love it. We've got probably only 11 matches left for this season. If you want to be a guest, reach out. It's Twitter @AllJuvecast, and let's get you booked in for some matches. But it's been awesome. Thanks again. Thanks everybody who's reached out. Always getting a great response. I can't thank everybody enough for the support. It's fantastic. I've been having a blast. And of course, be back at it again after Barcelona this week. Chris, hit me with what's going to happen. What's your prediction?
I've got a 1-1 draw.
A 1-1 draw. Nice. Man, it's tough to say because it's just you don't know what you're going to get. But I have this feeling. I have this feeling we'll be okay in this one, and I think we'll get the win. I'm going to call 2-1 win for Juve coming up.
Let's hope you're right and I'm wrong.
Yeah, let's hope for it. We've had enough draws already. Too early.
On a draw streak. I thought they just draw.
Get back in the win column. But yeah, thanks again, man. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Pleasure.
As always, we'll chat after Barca. Forza Juve. Fino alla
Forza
fine.
Juve.
Ciao.
Thank you.